Sorry, guys. I had to delete a lot, maybe about 5,127 pictures and videos to make room for this. So, you're prescribed a certain dosage of benzodiazepines mixed with a specific controlled dose of opioids or opiates to try to minimize the pain, right? For instance, let's say you go to a hospital. You got into a motorcycle accident, an automobile accident, anything that requires extreme emergency response to your pain, anything like that. The prescribing physicians know what they're doing. They're going to put you on this, and that, or this and that, or this, and that. And when you leave that hospital, they're going to at least try their hardest to make sure that you leave comfortably. No withdrawal symptoms, no post-acute symptoms, no this, no that, no issues. And some people, they might go overboard. I get it. But that goes back to what I was saying. They might have other issues that they're not telling you or they don't know about. Now, it's not hard, but it's not easy to get this point across. But if you think about it logically, your brain chemistry. Now, a lot of people that are religious, they might disagree. Sorry. This might be our first chance at life in a physical vessel. I don't know. Neither do you. But I know about the life we live now. I'm hypersensitive to my brain up there. Very hypersensitive. Very hyper. I feel everything happening up there. Everything. Everything. And I'm sober. And that's what's fucked up. Is that my sober self is, well, even when I was using, I still knew this. Sometimes I used because I wanted to numb the fact that I knew this. This is very hard. But it's easy to say what I'm going to say. A lot of addicts that I know, kills me to see you guys suffer. Now, when you go to rehab, detox, then rehab, or just detox and MAT with CBT afterwards or follow-ups, you need extensive help. And I'm going to tell you why you need extensive help. This might answer a lot of addicts' questions as to why the fuck did life throw me these cards. A lot of you addicts don't tell the truth. You don't. You don't tell the truth. Is it your fault? No. And yes. And no. And yes. And no. And yes. And no. And yes. And no. It depends on what you're going through. It depends on what you have going on. It depends on what you've been through. It depends on what you're feeling that a lot of you guys are not schooled on to know what's going on. Do you realize when I found out I had pudendal nerve damage and costochondritis, I went to my urologist when I was 13, 14 borderline of being a teenager. I went to my urologist after studying and studying and studying, not just Google MD and Mayo Clinic. No. Actual physiology, biology, chemistry, this, that, the third, every aspect of the human physiological makeup, anything that I could, everything I studied, but I made sure I wasn't becoming moronic about it. I wasn't exaggerating, and I was tested and diagnosed, and I was correct. So I knew I had this chronic pain that I was dealing with for quite a long time. Diagnosed at 13, 14, started using opioids at around 24 years old. Percocets, Vicodin, small shit, nothing serious. Right? Nothing serious. But guess what? The pain got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. That it depressed. I was so depressed about it. It hurt to fucking urinate. It hurt. STD tests, everything negative. Nerve damage. My urologist was like, how did you figure that out? How? Well, how did you figure that? And I told him how. He said, you should be wearing this lab coat. He's like, this is something you should give some thought to. And I was like, yeah, no. I wanted to figure out what the fuck was going on because it wasn't comfortable. And he said, proud of you. Thank you, Jack. His name was Jack. His first name, obviously. So, my life went on. Had a kidney stone in 2015, 2014 technically, but almost 2015. I was at my little sister's graduation party, and we were at a restaurant, and I thought I had food poisoning, so I started throwing up in the bathroom. I had fever, stomach cramps. And then it turned into back pain. And I realized I felt like I had to pee so bad, but I peed a driplet. Pain was horrendous. So, my mother said, go to the car. We're almost done. Go to the car. All right. Can you drive? She's like, I drove you here. I'm like, oh. I was disoriented. That's how bad the pain was. Went in her car and waited for her and all of them, dad, mom, stepmom, all of them to finish. Came out. Mom got in the car, came home. She gave me a Xanax, 0.25. It didn't work. Nothing was working. So I went to the hospital. My dad agreed to meet me at the hospital. No, he picked me up. We went to the hospital, and I was there from 11 o'clock p.m. until about 6:46 a.m. the next morning. And it was hell. The worst pain I've ever felt in my life, right? When I passed the stone, as in from my kidneys to my bladder, I thought it was done. The doctor said, now you gotta pass it. I said, I said, what? She was like, now you gotta pass it. I said, pass the what? Your penis. What happened the whole time y'all gave me Tylenol free and I was passed out? You passed out. Give you a painkiller. What? Gave me the strainer. Told me to catch it. Bring it in. 1 millimeter. Went right through the strainer. Never caught it. So, father said, go home, take your pain medicine, rest. Jawohl, mein Führer. I will go home and do that. I did. 5 milligram Percocet. I feel pain a little bit, not too bad. The second one, hooked on opioids. Hooked. I didn't use hardcore after that for maybe almost 2 years. And then kept using oxys, which turned to Roxys. The woman I was getting Roxys from died in Florida. And anyway, then I found a dealer that I knew in my local town, and he had the same things. Prescription. His grandma selling them, making a ton of fucking money. A ton of money. One day they changed color. Sky blue. And I looked at him and said, these are not prescription painkillers. He said, this is what my guy gave me. I said, who's your guy? I thought you were getting them from your grandmother. She ran out. They stopped prescribing them. I had to find somebody. I said, do you use? He said, yeah, I use. I knew they weren't real. So I broke it into 8 pieces. I took 1/8. Only and first time I ever nodded out. Ever. I took 1/8 and I nodded out. It scared me. So that's when I had an extended period of clean time. I got off. I went to a rehab. Terrible. Terrible place. Went home. Finished it off. Was clean for quite some time. And toxic relationship. She brought painkillers, the actual prescription ones, brought them home to where we were living, and we used together. And eventually I decided it was good to get clean. And she said, okay. Well, after 5 days, she was like, I'm ready to go to work. I said, how? I'm still fucked up. I don't feel good. How are you ready to go back to work in the medical field for a major medical corporation? Whatever. All right, it is what it is. Maybe we're different. My point is that she was cheating on me the whole 7 years, and the guy she was cheating on me with was a heroin addict / dealer, a scumbag. And you know who I'm talking to. No, he's not on YouTube like that. But fuck you, I hate you. I don't like her either anymore. That's way gone. But you're a scumbag because the whole 7 years, you're a piece of shit. Anyway, so, got clean and thought she was clean, and come to find out she wasn't. She kept using. Even when I was clean, she kept using, but putting me through a lot of shit. And first rehab stint didn't work, second rehab stint didn't work, third didn't work, fourth didn't work, fifth didn't work, sixth worked a little, seventh, as in the most recent time, that was it, because I came to the conclusion of what I'm going to tell you. Here's what I understand. Addiction, addicts, these people, no matter what their reasoning for getting on whatever substance they're on, yes, they have underlying conditions. I don't care what anybody fucking says. If not, you disagree, go fuck yourself. I don't care. Go ahead and tell me I'm wrong. I dare you to tell me I'm fucking wrong. You've got something, or 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 15 things wrong with you that you're not saying, that you might not understand why you feel that way. You're not a fucking doctor. You don't know. Now, more to the point of what I'm saying is that these people use the substance or substances that they use for however long they use for. One day they hit rock bottom. Might happen a couple times, a few times. It depends on the person. Eventually, family, friends, loved ones, they all say, listen, you better fucking go do something because we're not putting up with you anymore. You're robbing, stealing, this, that, the other, or you're not doing any of that, and you're just sad, depressed, and you have suicide attempts. It depends on the person. Like me, I never robbed anybody. I never stole from anybody I loved from. I didn't do any of that. That wasn't my style. I didn't do that because subconsciously, I was intelligent enough to distinguish the difference between thief and realism, and just doing what I did. If I ran out of money and I said to somebody, I need money for gas, I need money for food, I actually used that money for that, but I ran out of my finances that I made myself through work or this or that, and then I had more than enough drug for me. I wasn't a poly addict, but to get through what I had to get through, you know? And I was given the money, and I used it for gas, dog food, whatever the fuck. I used it for what I said I was using it for, and that's what's fucked up with my situation. I was serious. That's what I used the money for. And it's, yeah, I don't care if you don't believe me. You're not me. You're not gonna, you can't change the way I think. And sorry, dude or dudettes, I don't care. Sorry. But a lot of people out there lie, cheat, steal, Eddie Guerrero status, and rest in peace, Eddie. They lie, they cheat, they do all that shit, and I understand, you know what I mean? Because a part of me was like, I could do this, I could do that, but I can't do it. That's not how I was raised, so sorry. Anyway, to my main point, when somebody submits themselves to a rehab or a detox, or they're desperate and they go to a hospital, hospitals, they'll discharge you within hours the next day. Sorry. They're really not obliged to treat you and take care of you and this, that, unless you say you're going to kill yourself. They might have to. You go to a rehab, detox, they'll take you. Come on in. We got a bed for you. It's going to be a 4-week wait. They call you in 2 days. You're in. Boom. You're in. Still not my point. The point is if you have an addict, let me look at the camera. If you have an addict that's hooked on, physically dependent and psychologically dependent on a substance, if you rip them off cold turkey, my question to physicians and diagnosticians, and I'm not blaming you guys for anything, you're not responsible for this, I'm asking you genuinely, if you have a patient that's a pain patient, psychological, their PTSD, this, that, the third, if you have a patient that suffers from specific symptoms with specific traumas, this, that, and the third, you give them benzos, which I'm not against benzos. Some people have panic problems, dude. They need it with the right therapy until they finally realize that they can overcome it. Pain patients, some people are prescribed their whole lives. That's okay. It happens. Almost 9 billion humans on Earth. Not everybody's the same. But addicts that decided to take substances, if you took those addicts, right? Those addicts that say, I'm taking heroin or fentanyl or whatever analog of fentanyl they're taking, or, you know, opioids, opiates, synthetic or not, whatever, they take them. There's a lot of people, so I can't tell you to go ahead and dissect every single one. I'm speaking for everybody that's addicted for reasons that they still can't figure out. Chances are you guys have something wrong with you. Thyroid, hormonal, physiologically, psychologically, you guys have something fucking wrong with you, obviously. And it doesn't mean you're bad people for that. It does not mean that at all. It means that you have something wrong. But you're not trained. You're not a doctor. You're not going to sit there and tell your prescribing GP or your neurologist or this, that, the third. You're not going to tell them why immediately. You're going to be like, yeah, I have penile nerve damage and I want to be treated for it. You're not going to do that. That's not your nature. You might be a fucking gas pumping attendant. You might be an architect, but you're not specializing in those fields. So it's not your fault nor your doctor's fault. But I will tell both of you, as in the diagnosticians and the patients, I will tell both of you that if you're prescribed something for a specific period of time, benzos, opioids, opiates, synthetic or not, whatever, or if you're not prescribed and you're self-medicating, specifically if you're not prescribed and self-medicating, one day you hit rock bottom 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, whatever it takes for you to get it. You go to a rehab, you call a detox center and you say, look, I have a fucking problem. They'll go, shit, give us a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. They're going to call you in like 2-3 days, dude. Realistically, people AMA all the time. Right now, somebody just AMA'd. Again, somebody AMA'd. Again, somebody AMA'd. The statistics, realistically, people do it all the time. They're going to call you back. You're on a list. So they call you, hey, we've got a bed. Come on in. You come in. This is the point I'm trying to make. Now, be ready for this, guys, because you're going to get it. Because chances are your subconscious tells your forefront, you know this, but the world is the way it is. People are the way they are, and this is the way it is. I have to follow in and jump online. If I don't, no one's going to get me. Well, I fucking do. If you take somebody off of a chemical, and it's not your responsibility, technically, it's not. I'm just talking the truth. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. I'm saying the truth. If you take somebody off of the chemical that they are on, right? Take them off. Fentanyl, heroin, Xanax, alprazolam, clonazepam, lorazepam, and they've been taking it for a specific amount of time, they're going to crash. And you know what that means. Don't roll your eyes yet. Don't get impatient on me, please. I see you. Don't get impatient yet. Hold on. Give me a chance to speak. What happens when you crash? Because a lot of the time, the prescribing physicians or the rehabs and all of their employees, unless they've been through it, they don't understand the crash period. If you're taking 5 milligram Percocets for 2 years, you might have an easier recovery. But if you go from 5 milligram Percocets to fentanyl, or, well, Percocets, heroin, fentanyl, Percocets, morphine, heroin, fentanyl, heroin, morphine, whatever. You get what I'm saying? The crash is traumatic. Meaning that if you take them off cold turkey, if they're using 2 bundles of fentanyl or heroin a day for this amount of time, and you crash them cold turkey, that mirrors their recovery. They're going to have to go through meetings and treatments and this and that, relapses, this, that, the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, the 10th, the 12th, the 15th, the 20th, the more. They may never get better because they crashed. They crashed. They crashed. The doctors, the scientists, you know what I'm talking about. It's not your fault. I'm not blaming any of you guys. I just want you guys to know that at least one person gets it. When you crash like that, if you've been using for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, chances are your recovery time, meetings, sober homes, relapses, meetings, sober homes, relapses, meetings, sober homes, relapses, inpatient treatment, inpatient, outpatient, inpatient, inpatient treatment, outpatient, inpatient, outpatient. It depends on the person, but realistically, that reflects on their recovery. Let's say you go to the hospital because you were in a motorcycle accident or car accident, and the physicians put them on a specific drip amount of fentanyl for this long, then switch them to morphine, because morphine is not the same as the analog of fentanyl we use. Switch them to morphine so the fentanyl leaves their system, and by day 6, 7, depends on their response to pain, you can either stop cold turkey or you can taper. Well, most of them taper you off of the other opioid or opiate that they put you on so you don't crash. Because when you crash, it tells your entire future. That's why I make these videos. If people are willing to go out there and get their substance of choice, they make the money they do. I don't know how the fuck y'all make your money, but you do. And don't tell me you can't afford this or that, because you're fucking lying. You can afford, go ahead and look at your Cash App in your bank account, or write it down every time you spend the amount of money you spend on your substance. You can afford $1 million home, dude. Not $1 million, maybe. I don't know. But I will tell you, your excuses don't fucking fly. Mine didn't, even though I wasn't the type to rob and steal from people. Your excuses do not fly. You make the money. You hustle. You ask. You borrow. You beg. You lie. You cheat. You steal. Whatever the fuck you do it, and you do it successfully, so you're not sick every day. Right? Right. The doctors, they're not responsible for how you act, so don't blame them either. Benzo patients, even if you're prescribed, stop dwelling into the fear-mongering. Please stop, because I'm telling you right now, obviously, people that go to rehabs and detoxes, they go in, they come out, after even 2 weeks, after 15, 20 years of abusing benzos, they get out and they recover. They recover. I've seen it. 20, 25, 30 milligrams more of alprazolam, clonazepam, both together, and alcohol. I've seen it. But a lot of patients prescribed their whole lives, they've never felt withdrawal like us opiate addicts. They've never felt it. So once they feel it, they're going to go Stephen King style, and they're going to type a fucking story you've never even heard of. That's terrifying. And that's all right. You know what I mean? They shouldn't have to go through that, you know, but it's also not the doctor's fault, because I don't know who the fuck it was out there, because the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, I didn't hear people complaining about shit like this. I haven't heard it ever. Never heard it. Not to this extent. But they are. They're out there and they're suing physicians. They're suing this person, that person, the higher ups in the corporations. They're doing all this shit. It's not their fault either. You know what I mean? Some people need benzos, dude. Shut the fuck up. They need them. If they have panic problems with CBT and certain types of therapy, they can get through it. They will. And they'll get over it one day. Then they can taper successfully. But if they're not ready yet, they're not ready yet. You get what I'm saying? Now, as for addicts that choose these substances, the truth is when you crash, it reflects on your recovery. It reflects on your recovery. If you're on fentanyl, whatever analog you're on, heroin, if you're lucky, opioids, oxycodone, whatever, you know what I mean? If you're on that, you're lucky. At least you can get on buprenorphine or some other type of MAT med without, well, specifically buprenorphine in terms of precipitated withdrawal. Methadone depends on how you are. You know what I mean? Like, your crash reflects on your recovery. If you crash and you've been using for forever, and you crash cold turkey, you go into a detox, they put you on comfort meds and all this, that, and the third. If you've been using for like 30, 35, 40 years and you go cold turkey, you're going to go into a detox for rehab, and goddamn, your recovery is going to be difficult. It's going to be your imbalance, your dopamine deficiency, your serotonin imbalance, your norepinephrine system is going to go. It depends, you know, if you have ADHD or not. It depends on a lot of specific factors. A lot of addicts don't care about their health or their mental health. They don't care about it in that moment because why would they? They've got goals. A goal. So the truth is that if you guys don't crash and you go about it intelligently, you're not going to have that kind of a recovery. Because if you crash cold turkey from a hardcore opiate, synthetic or not, if you crash really hard, dude, you're going to be fucking depressed. You're going to, and plus stereotypes, you know what I mean, certain aspects of how we live as human beings. You go by what you know as a human, and it's not your fault. You know what I mean? It's not your fault. As you addicts out there, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not the physician's fault. Unless they were prescribing you fentanyl forever and decided to cold turkey you. Screw you. These physicians should know. And a lot of these recovery coaches, they know subconsciously. They know what I'm saying. Don't act like you guys don't know. You're intelligent enough. You know what I'm talking about. The crash mirrors the recovery. And it's about chemistry in your brain. It's about how hard you crash. If you crash really fucking hard, you're going to have a hard ass fucking recovery. If you were using for a year, opioids, you get help, you know, you might not, you'd be fine. You might be all right. And it also depends on how you respond to those chemicals. And if you respond to those chemicals in an extreme way, extreme, as in, I want more of something harder, you've got something deeper going on. Figure out what that is. Because chances are, you might not remember while you're using what it is. But like I tell people, like 9/11, I was there. My dad's fire commissioner in my township. My cousins were FDNY firefighters. My birthday, September 10th. I was brought to the city on the 11th. That video of the firefighter with the gas meter checking the gas under the streets of, behind the cameraman, I was there. So I saw it happen. There's times where I watch the video of Enrique Iglesias' version of Hero, and I cry. Like, sorry. I watch it because it makes me feel something that I don't want to feel. I really don't want to. I don't want to feel it. But I have to, because when I do, I don't know what happens to me. I don't feel better, but I feel like I step out of my body into a God's perspective. I'm not saying God, I'm saying to a God's perspective, as in watching myself. And I don't take anything seriously anymore. Chemical, drug wise. Nothing can hurt me anymore. Because I've been hurt enough in terms of that. And I've been hurt more. So you guys, you really gotta do some serious reflection. You gotta do reflection. You gotta do a lot of self-reflection. Power Benzo coaching, that guy, his channel's great, guys. You know, he tells you this stuff, the fear mongering in terms of benzos. You guys, you really gotta think about things. Think about yourself, your fears, even if your fear is benzos and coming off, whatever the fuck it is. You really have to expose yourself, like exposure therapy. Expose yourself to things that make you cry. Stop avoiding them. You know what I mean? Because back to what I was saying, I'm sorry. I got emotional, but the 9/11 thing. But if you want to understand, right? I'm not blaming anybody. If somebody puts themselves in a rehab or a detox, they submit, they surrender. They go and they say, I can't do this anymore. Please help me. These people help you. These nurses, these MAs, these nurse practitioners, LPNs, they help you. They do what they can. They don't know your truth. You need to start speaking up. Guys, my fellow addicts, speak up. Start fucking talking. I don't care if it's the shape of your fucking refrigerator. I don't give a shit how crazy it sounds. Speak the fuck up. Say what's bothering you. Just say it. Stop being embarrassed. Stop being worried, because guarantee you there are people out there with more quote unquote embarrassing things that they could say that'll make you look at them and go, why are you worried about that? But somebody else might look at you and go, why are you worried about that? And so on. It's the domino effect. There's no perfect people on this planet. My truth is that the harder you crash, the harder you fall, the harder it is to get up. I don't give a fuck how many fucking self-motivational videos you catch. It's all chemical. If you crash and you go on MAT because you need it, you probably do. Because you're not going to go back to the real world that fast, dude. You're not. You're not going to go back to the real world that fast. You're not. You've been depleted of dopamine. Dope. You've been depleted for however long and however strong of a substance you were taking. You've been depleted. And my fellow physicians and diagnosticians, neurologists, biologists, you all know this. If they were in hospitals, which you guys addicts, you cannot just go to a hospital and say, hey, I'm hooked on fentanyl. Can you help me out? They're gonna be like, fuck you. We can't, because there's about 30 million other people that come in here and say the same shit. We can't help them all. I don't blame them. You're not, sorry, it ain't gonna happen. But if you understand the concept of the fact that if you crash hard off of a very potent chemical, benzos, opioids, alcohol, whatever, you're not going to, and I mean cold turkey, which is why I support tapering. Do you guys see what I'm saying now? Why I support tapering? Because in a hospital setting, if you were a patient and you were under the doctor's care, they're going to put you on an opioid or an opiate, and they will make sure you leave that fucking hospital with minimal to no withdrawals at all. I know many people that have been put on a fentanyl drip or a morphine drip, and, or even opioids. And, they say, oh, I felt great in the hospital. It was a fun little ride, but never again. Because they were taken care of. Now, when it comes to taking care of yourselves, if you guys can go out there and find N30s, bags, pills, this, that, the other. I don't mean to say it like this, but you might have to play doctor. Because ain't no doctor. I mean, if you go to a rehab, like I said, it's going to reflect on your recovery. If you crash hard, you're going to have a hard time. There's no easy way out, dude. There ain't no easy way out. But that's why I make these tapering videos. Do you fucking get it now? Because neurologically, if you crash hard enough, you're going to be praying, oh, this isn't going to work, and I relapsed 150 million times. Well, duh. You came off of a fucking opiate that is not supposed to be given to any human being, almost in any situation. You don't know what they're putting in this shit nowadays. You don't know. It could be the strongest analog of fentanyl. It could be the weakest. It could be the strongest dosage of morphine. You don't know what you're getting. So my point is, the reason I'm making these videos is because I want you guys to understand the importance of tapering. If you taper properly, like physicians would taper you off in a hospital setting, which is where I'm not going to talk about that anymore, which is where I get my knowledge of coming off of what you're coming off of. You're not going to experience that crash. A lot of you are going to go, well, addicts don't have that kind of self-control. We don't have that. Be realistic, Dan. We don't have that. You're being ignorant. Have you ever been an addict? Fuck yeah. What the fuck do you think I'm doing? If you can get your drugs, come up with that money, look at the amount you spent every year. You can afford to fucking taper. If you really want to quit, you can taper. If you're not ready to fucking quit, you're not going to. Who the fuck has to tell you otherwise? You're not gonna finish. You're not ready. You got another 5 years left in you. I'm sorry, sounds fucked up, but that's the reality. That's why people do what they do in terms of addicts. They'll go another 5, 10 years, 15, 20 years still using because they're not ready yet. When you're actually ready, you're on YouTube looking for videos. You're doing specific things and trying hard enough to actually find the answer. Well, I'm giving you the fucking answer. Either you can get on MAT, suck it up, go as long as you can, and I've done it before, pre-sip 17 times, and I have been through days and days and days. Still went into pre-sip. I've been through 8 hours. Took a Suboxone or a Subutex and was fine. It's complex. It ain't fucking easy, dude. It's not easy. But the Russian roulette in this case is worth it. Because I mean, you clearly can't live the way you are. Like Dr. Carl Hart, great guy, very knowledgeable. He uses heroin as a physician, he does. There's too many humans on Earth. You can't sit there and tell one person, because everybody else is like this, or this amount of people, you shouldn't do this. You shut the fuck up. You can't tell somebody what to do. And I'm also not telling you to keep using. So I don't want you to get that misinterpretation of what I'm saying. But realistically, guys, the point is, the reason why I make these videos about tapering is because if you have the control to take however much you're using a day and keep it at that, reflecting on what you can afford, and you really want to quit, you can taper off properly. Now, do you fucking get why I make these tapering videos? Do you get it now? Because if you lessen the crash, you lessen the recovery. You crash somebody too hard in a car accident, really hard, very hard, their recuperation, their recovery is going to take as long as hard as that fucking crash was. Unless they get lucky. But chances are, they're not. So, if you can do what you do and use as much as you use and the amount and for how long, think about your recovery. You have to control yourselves, because you're controlling your addiction. You're controlling how much you use. You might sit there and say, I'm out of fucking control. No, duh, in terms of that aspect, but look at the other aspect. Channel that perception the other way. Not this way, this way. Use it to your benefit, because chances are most, if not all, addicts are so intelligent. They're too intelligent for their own reality. You guys get it. We get it. We get it so much that we have to numb it. And there's no human terminology to describe it. That's what's really fucked up. There's no language. Asian, this, that, the other, English. There's no language to say, this is why I do what I do. You're never going to explain it. Just stop trying. Stop. Don't even try. You know why. Don't try to tell somebody else. Don't. Yeah, you can talk to your therapist and tell them traumas you went through. That's fine. Maybe it all adds up to one. But chances are, the real reason is so far back, I can't reach it. And if you can do all the shit you do to afford what you do on a daily basis, muster up that fucking willpower and taper. Just do it. You don't know what batch you're going to get or how strong it is. I can just tell you straight up, assume everything is extremely strong. And taper. You feel sick, let yourself get sick. Chances are you've been sick before. Take a minimal dosage. Cut it down, cut it down, cut it down, cut it down. You go to a hospital, they're not going to do that for you. And they shouldn't have to. It's not their fucking choice that you decided to do what you're doing. Unless your doctor cut you off cold turkey off of pain medicine or, benzodiazepines, then yeah, it might be mostly their fault. We're all their fault. But if it's not the case and you're just an addict, sorry guys, if you can find fentanyl or heroin, you can find Roxicets or Percocets. I can only find 5 milligram Percocets. Good, motherfucker. We'll buy about however much it takes to afford your habit and buy all of the ones that you can and take the bare minimum to feel decent. I'm not going to go into that part. I have other videos for that. But the truth is, the harder the crash, the harder the fall. It's about chemistry. You might say to yourself, the devil's watching me. I want to kill myself. And well, yeah, you might want to, because you're fucking every chemical that's released in your brain, in every pleasure center, your amygdala, your this, your that, everything's going haywire. Duh, it's going to translate into human terminology, thought, and action. And when that happens, you're going to be deceived by your own mind and brain, which are two separate entities, and it's going to translate into, I want to kill myself, but you really don't want to. You know what I'm saying? It's going to translate. You're going to think that's what's going on because that's what you feel. But you have to step outside of yourself and tell yourself, this is not real. This is a fluctuation, an imbalance. Once you acknowledge that and you really grasp the perspective, you'll see it and be like, this isn't who I am. This isn't what I'm about. I shouldn't be doing this. I gotta come up with a plan. Well, your plan is you've been using fentanyl or heroin or whatever for how long. Make a plan to fucking get the fuck off. If you want it that bad, you're gonna do it. I'm sorry. And I've heard comments in the past in my old videos, and now that I'm sober. Sorry, you guys that try to talk down to me can fuck off because I'm sober now. I've been sober for, I forgot how long now. But if you're still in that train, I actually still care about you because I know the delusion is fucking real. Come up with a plan. Think about what you're using. Do the science. Think scientifically. If I'm using fentanyl, shit, if you can get your hands on morphine, use morphine for 10 days, get the fuck off the fentanyl. If you're on morphine or heroin, use oxycodone to get off. If you can't do any of that, taper off of whatever the fuck it is you're using. You use less and less and less and less and less. If you're using 10 bags a day, jump down to 5. Keep at least 2 or 3 withdrawal symptoms while you're doing it. Because if you still feel withdrawal, that means your tolerance is dropping. If it's just some sweating and some slight chills, but everything else is gone, the depression and all that other shit, you can still sleep, whatever, even if you're waking up in the middle of the night. Just whatever. Your tolerance is dropping. Eventually that little dose is going to knock you out. But don't get cocky with it because you don't want to overdose. So don't disrespect detoxes and rehabs. They don't always work. They don't. Truthfully, they don't always work. Some people it's a one and done. Some people it's a none and none and they die. Some people it's 17 times and they finally get it. Some people are like scientific like me and they just think about the science and the neuroscience and the biology and they go, if I can, fuck it. If you got to replace it with something else that's going to make you feel normal for a specific amount of time, that's not as deadly or threatening, life-threatening as what you're taking, stop telling people, don't take that, it's addicting also. If you've been addicting to the most fucking addictive substance on fucking earth, and something less addictive is there that you can take to make yourself not feel that much pain or this or that, you're not giving them a gun full of fucking ammunition and telling them one of these is going to kill your, going to fire off. No. The physicians, the diagnosticians, sometimes it is their fault if they crashed you too hard. Benzodiazepines, I don't really think it's the physicians and diagnosticians, neurologists, psychiatrists, I don't think it's all their fault because I don't know who the fuck decided to come out and go, everybody needs to get off benzos now. Right now. Who the fuck came up with that? Because like I said earlier, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, you didn't hear that shit. You didn't hear it. And there's people out there right now, I can say that will attest to that. They join these groups. Now all of a sudden it's the hardest thing to do in the world. Right? And as for opioids, opiate addicts like myself, recovering, dude, it ain't gonna just taper off. Just stop fucking using all day, every hour, every 20 minutes, and just wait and give yourself enough time. You need to do fucking something, or else you want to go to rehab for 30, 60, 90, 120 a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. You want to go that long? Because that's what's going to happen once you get your shit together. I've tapered off fentanyl a number of times. I've done it. I have done it. I've tapered off oxycodone. I've tapered off, I think it was heroin. I'm not sure. But, you can taper off anything, dude. You can. You're strong enough to have gone through withdrawal when your dealer was out for 4 or 5 days, right? Duh. Well, you have your shit with you. Take the bare minimum just to take the edge off. Not to feel 100% normal. Not even to feel okay. take the bare minimum of the edge off and then wait as long as you can. Eventually, that little tiny dosage is going to make you feel better. So it's not the doctor's fault. Unless you're a chronic pain patient or you're a panic freak, even like myself, but I'm still not prescribed benzos. It's not their fault. If you became an addict because you had a pain problem and you loved the way it felt, you're chasing Amy, dude. If you can do all that work and put that whole career of addiction in, you can do the opposite. Baby beluga, you can fucking go the other way. Look at my old videos about tapering. You might have thought I was bullshitting then, but after this speech, I really, truly hope you get what the fuck I'm saying now. Stop blaming anybody. It's not anybody's fault. Sometimes it's not your fault. You might be stranded and left stranded, and that sucks. I feel for you guys. I really feel for you, the ones that have been stranded. But if you have no other options, either go to rehab or detox, crash. It's not gonna be fun. You might have a hard time recovering, dude. But pain patients, emergency, patients that require emergency attention are tapered off properly. And when they leave that hospital, depending on who it is, a lot of them say, yeah, I was on morphine or fentanyl for this long, and they don't go back and chase the shit. Why is that? Because they were tapered off properly. Now do you guys get what the fuck I'm saying? I hope you do. Because that's why my name is now Taper King instead of DS or however many names I had in the past. I changed my name because tapering matters. Tapering is a part of everything. Everybody talks about tapering. That's the only thing I hear now fucking days. Taper. Taper. You're on heroin, legit heroin. You can seek that shit out. You can find Roxasets. Switch to that for 24, 38, 48 hours. But realistically, if it's pure heroin, 24 to 30 hours, get on buprenorphine. If you don't want to get on buprenorphine, fight it off. If you're on fentanyl and you don't know the analog, find some actual painkillers. Stay on those for 3-4 days until the fentanyl leaves your system, or as long as you can, and then wait 24 hours and then switch to an MAT medication. If you don't want to be on MAT medication, ride it the fuck out until the fentanyl is gone. Not long enough for yourself to be dependent on the actual opioid, but the fentanyl is leaving your system. You should be fine. Your brain chemistry is not going to go. It's going to go and stabilize. That's my point. Tapering is important. Do you see why I favor tapering? I hope you guys get it now. Talk to your doctors. Do whatever you have to do. Some doctors will do it. They will switch you to Roxasets or whatever the fuck they can do for you, Percocets or whatever the hell they can do, depending on your liver function, depending on your health, to get you to a point where the fentanyl leaves your system, and for however long, and then you wait 24 hours or 30 hours and you switch to an MAT med. There is an option for you guys. There are options for you guys. If you really start to think, it's not always the physician's faults, and it's not always your faults. But a lot of the times, it is your fault. But it's okay. If you have that self-control to use all of those opiates, channel differently. Think the right way. Think scientifically, neurobiologically. Think like that. You might think the devil is coming and scratching on your fucking wall. That's not always the case. Sometimes you're having all the time you're having imbalances that are going like fucking this. Stabilize it if you can. Do whatever it takes. But be honest, don't sugarcoat, tell the truth, and you'll get through it. I hope that makes sense to you guys. Sorry if this wasn't what some of you were expecting, but truthfully, you don't have to suffer. You don't. You don't have to suffer. The crash reflects on your recovery. If you crash too hard, your recovery is going to be that long. If you taper properly and take the proper protocol and are honest with your physicians, if they're cool, you might have an easier way out. You don't know until you fucking try. You don't have to go through cold turkey unless you're one of those people that wants to. Go fucking ahead. Some people do that and they're fine. I don't know. Nowadays, you don't know what you're getting. But if you're that fucking scared and you're YouTube searching all of these people that have been through it and got through it, and you're like, I want to be where you're at, and you don't get there, obviously, you need to fucking think of a plan B or a C or D or E. It ain't working for you, plan A. Think. But also acknowledge that your brain chemistry, if your fluctuation is way too hard, that's why you're feeling these insane fluctuations, these imbalances are just too much for you because it's reflective upon your brain chemistry. It's not you. It's not you. It's not a part of you. You're not going to be like, oh, I can't live anymore. I have to jump off a bridge. I can't do this. That's not why you feel that way. It's because your serotonin, your dopamine, your norepinephrine system, everything is going out of, your amygdala is just fucking everything is just out of whack. You know what I mean? That's, you got to translate. And that's what my point is. You have to translate. If you can go on Google and translate Spanish to English, Italian to English, German to English, think about it as brain chemistry to human thought and terminology. If you have a bunch of negative imbalances, your brain is going to go, hey, start hating yourself. Start planning your suicide. Start killing, start hurting, start doing this, start doing that. It's going to tell you that, but that's not you, and that's not what you have to do. You have to be intelligent enough to distinguish the difference. Once you step out of your body and look at it, you're going to go, that's the imbalance. That's because I've been pumping my brain full of dopamine for this long. And this is the opposite. A painkiller kills pain, makes you feel euphoria, it takes away your anxiety. Your GABA receptors relax, your opioid receptors are full, and this is what you get. Now the opposite of that is going to be exactly what you're thinking right now. You're abusing benzos, or you're prescribed them. What do you think the opposite's going to be, dude? Unless, you don't have anxiety problems and you never worked on your problems beforehand or during. What do you think the opposite of the chemical you're taking is going to be? It's going to be the opposite. But translate the effect and the imbalances into human thought, terminology, and actions, and you will stop yourself from going insane. Because if you can acknowledge that, you're going to go, I'm not going to let myself go over the edge. I'm too smart. I'm too smart. I know what's going on. I feel it. I'm bobbing and weaving to the imbalances, but I won't be those imbalances. I hope that means something to you guys. I hope you get it. I hope I didn't keep you on your toes and this is what you didn't want to hear. I hope this is what you wanted to hear. I don't fucking know. I'm not blaming anybody specifically because the situation varies. All of them vary. But the point is that translate imbalance, forced reaction to a medication or medications into human thought, motives, actions, terminology, everything, linguistics, everything translates what you were taking. Your crash is going to reflect on how you recover. That's why I support tapering, and that's why I changed my name recently to Taper King. Hope you guys get it now. Good night or good morning, since it's 1:30 right now where I'm at. But hopefully I didn't disappoint you guys.